Welcome to Your City Connections, where you get to meet entertaining and informative guests. Guests such as an artist with a brush or with a camera, and a guest with a violin. City Connections, providing insightful interviews with favorite son Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb, to city commissioners, the mayor, interviews with a rodeo queen, to beauty queen, and even an NBA player. Now, join Steve Kime as he discusses another engaging topic on City Connections.
Hello again and welcome to City Connections. I'm Steve Kime with the City of Enid. Thank you for joining me today. As usual, we have another great guest for you. In the next 15-20 minutes, we have an opportunity to learn more about the Enid Public School system. And my special guest today that's stopping by the Enid Television Network studios is Dr. Darrell Floyd. Dr. Floyd, good to have you. Welcome to ETN.
Thank you, Steve.
Have a seat and we'll ask you a few questions about the school. Well, you're about to embark, well, maybe you've already started your second year. We could phrase it that way. Mm-hmm. So what did you learn about your first year? You came up from Texas, you come to Enid, Oklahoma, got the first year behind you. What did you learn about Enid, the community, and the schools?
Well, I tried to get involved in a number of community activities as many as I could, and that got
I've
me.
seen you at Rotary.
Yeah, and that got me exposed to meeting a lot of people and learning a lot about the community, and I did that by design. So I've become a member of the Rotary Club and Unam Bucks, and participated in Leadership Greater Enid last year, which was a wonderful experience because it got me exposed to a number of areas that might have taken me longer to get to. Sure. I've sat on a number of boards, including the St. Mary's Hospital Board and United Way. We're actually chairing a United Way campaign this year, EPS is, and I've been involved with United Way for a long time and feel very strongly about their mission and what they do to help people, and giving them a hand, not a handout, but a hand up.
Sure.
And so glad to be involved in that, and hopefully we can do some good things in that capacity this year.
My next question focuses really on the school year. How did the first year go for you? That's kind of open-ended, so you can take it anywhere you want to go.
Yeah, the first year went well. It was a little bit of a learning curve because there are some differences in moving north of the Red River. You got unions here that we didn't have in Texas. This is a fast-growing school district that was a little bit different than where I came from, and we've got some obstacles that we're trying to deal with. Teacher shortage issue certainly is one of those that it's not unique to Enid Public Schools, but right. Every district in the state is having to deal with that, and I think it's becoming a nationwide problem too. So I think the teacher shortage issue and the low teacher pay are certainly a couple of obstacles that are difficult obstacles to overcome, but we're making our way through that process. But the main thing is that we saw a number of great successes with students throughout the school year, and that's really what it's all about.
In preparation for the interview, Dr. Floyd, I was looking at some of the information on the Enid Public School website, and I want to read this to get this correct for everyone. Part of the mission statement for Enid Public Schools says this: to promote lifelong learning through educational excellence. How do you achieve that?
Well, we went through a relatively comprehensive process to develop our new strategic plan, and we have an addition to that statement, and it's entitled our call to action statement, and I'll read it to you. It says, all EPS learners will be fully equipped at every level to be responsible, well-rounded global citizens. And so really in today's society, we all know that our kids are going to be competing in a global society more so than ever before. And so we're trying to prepare kids the best we can, not only locally but globally. And the development of our strategic plan was very beneficial because we were able to gather input from well over 1,000 community members, either by inviting them to attend a meeting or electronic surveys or things like that. And what we ended up with was narrowing it down to 7 broad categories, and I'll just read those to you quickly. These are our 7 goals that are a part of our approved strategic plan that we'll be focusing on the next several years. Personnel and professional development is one category. Facilities is another one. Community and parent relationships, curriculum and instruction, assessment and accountability, enrichment opportunities, and then character development. So that's kind of our roadmap of where we'll be headed for the next several years. And now it's time to, once this is approved now, since this is approved now, it's now time to go to work on that. And so all of what we do moving forward will kind of be relating to this and say, well, how does that relate to our strategic plan? And if it does, well, then we'll be heading down that path. And if it doesn't, we'll say, well, let's focus on these 7 broad areas.
Our special guest today on City Connections is the Superintendent of Enid Public Schools, Dr. Darrell Floyd. Now, you didn't have a real long drive or commute to the ETN studios today. It's basically across the street. When you come into the east side of the community on Garriott, you will notice the ETN studios kind of on the left side. But on the right, there was this building that experienced a lot of remodeling, and I may have the wrong name. I call it the Education Service Center, so feel free to correct me. Maybe it's the Administration Service Center, but we also know that there's the new Welcome Center. What can you tell us about the Welcome Center, its function, and how does it help parents out?
Okay, thank you. And I will say first a word about the building. And those that have been in the community for a long time know that that old gym has been around for a long time and seen a lot of different activities in that building, but it did get renovated over the past year.
It really does.
And it's just going to be a great facility for us. It's going to be called the ASC, Administrative Services Center. And so our administrative offices moved from next door to that building right there on the corner, and it's 2 levels, 2 floors, and in the first I'll say how that thing was funded. It was not funded, the renovation of that building was not funded through bond monies, through the last bond election monies. It was funded with building fund monies and excess sales tax funds, so no bond monies were spent on the renovation of that. But when you first walk in, to the right-hand corner is the new Welcome Center, and I think that's going, we have already seen that to be a great benefit for both the school district and parents, because now it provides a central location for parents to enroll their students regardless of the campus that they are going to be at, and it's one central site, and they can generate pre-populated forms so that if they have multiple kids in their household, they only have to fill out the form one time, and then it's pre-populated for the rest of the students. So it keeps it expedites things and keeps parents from having to fill out all those forms like they used to.
Well, Dr. Floyd, I haven't had any children in the school system. I have a grandson that's entering the 2nd grade, so I stay in touch with some of the challenges of educators. I'm married to an educator, so I kind of stay tuned a little bit what's going on in the education system. And one thing in the state of Oklahoma that's been kind of a controversial deal is, I guess it was in 2011 that the legislature approved or put into law this A to F grading system for our schools. And I think if you ask 10 different educators here in Oklahoma, you may get 10 different responses about, yeah, I like it, no, I don't like it, it's fair, it's not fair. Can you just kind of share with us, and again, basically each school gets a grade of A through F on, there's different criteria, but it still may not be on the fair side like we think it is. I'm just interested in your thoughts, starting your 2nd year here in Oklahoma, here in Enid, being exposed to this A to F report card. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a flawed system that needs significant revision or altogether deleted. What it does is provide a label or a grade for every campus and district in the state that is not always accurate, because it provides a grade based on the lowest common denominator rather than providing credit for all the great things that are happening on each campus and in each district. So a lot of folks might just look at one label and say and make an automatic decision about a particular campus or a district, and that's not always accurate, because that says nothing about the wonderful things that happen on a daily basis in that particular campus or that particular district. And you can look at the labels or the grades across the state and see that the mid to lower range grades are all focused in the economically disadvantaged campuses or high poverty districts. And that's unfair to them, because it negates all the great things that are happening, and they get no credit for that, and they get all the credit for a mid to low grade score. And I think that's a flawed system, and anytime you're punishing, for lack of a better term, the high poverty campuses or districts, then that's never a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to bring up a controversial subject, but I know it's on the minds of a lot of educators and even parents across the state. They're just trying to grasp and get a handle on what this report card system is all about, and just really try to understand. So I appreciate your openness and willingness to share
I'll
your
just
thoughts.
add one thing to that, and that is that parents, both statewide and across the nation, you're seeing a bigger pushback against the overemphasis and over-reliance on high-stakes testing. And you're seeing that snowball build a little bit, I think, and I do think it is high time that that pushback gets some steam, because there's far too much emphasis on testing and testing and testing of students, and the amount of time that is taken in schools for testing is way out of line, in my opinion. And so that does need to be pulled back. And it's not just state, it's federal. And the amount of federal monies that school districts receive compared to the number of mandates and testing that has to be done federally is just ridiculous. So I think what we need is more flexibility and a decrease or decline in the overemphasis of high-stakes testing.
Sure, sure. Well, as you enter your second year, and as we just enter another school year here in late summer, what's your goals for 2015, 2016 for the Enid Public School System?
Well, as I said, we're going to focus on our strategic plan, and we've already developed a timeline for the accomplishment of those particular areas. And obviously you can't do everything in 1 year, so we've developed a clear outline of what we're going to start on first. And one of the things is trying to deal with the enrollment growth in the district. And we finished the year last year at almost 8,100 students, and we recently did a demographic and enrollment and capacity study, and what that showed was that the enrollment is going to significantly continue to increase in the school district to the point of where we are scheduled to have, or projected to have, over 9,600 students in EPS by 23-24. Well, the implications of that are then that we need to be proactive now in preparing for what we're going to do with all those kids when they get here. So we're starting to work on that, and we've got to be proactive rather than reactive in planning for that. And it's going to have a lesser impact on the elementary schools, but more of an impact on elementary and high school, because in 2007, we had a spike in live births in the county. Must have been a cold winter, I don't know, so the implication of that is then that those kids are now in our school system, because that was, what, 8 years ago now.
Right.
And so they're in our system, and we've got that bubble coming through that is going to affect us at the middle and high school level more so than the elementary level. So we've got to start planning for that and how we're going to address that.
Okay. We'll talk a little bit more about challenges. Can you hang around for a few more questions?
Be happy to.
Thank you for joining us on City Connections today. And again, our special guest is Dr. Darrell Floyd, entering his second year as superintendent at Enid Public Schools. We're going to take a short break here, and in case you need to contact Dr. Floyd, we'll have some information on the screen where you'll be able to contact him and learn more about how you can be a part of this community and the Enid Public Schools. We'll have more with Dr. Floyd right after this. Thank you for staying with us on City Connections. My special guest today is the Superintendent of Enid Public Schools, Dr. Darrell Floyd. Dr. Floyd, we were talking a little bit about some of the challenges. A lot of kids in school, and that number continues to grow. What are the challenges that perhaps that the Enid Public Schools is facing?
A big challenge is teacher shortage, both locally, statewide, and now it's becoming a national problem. So the teacher shortage is real, and we're trying to get the message out that to everyone that it is a problem, and we are encouraging as many young folks as we can to get in the pipeline, because we're seeing at the college level a decrease in those numbers of students that are going into education as a profession. So we're trying to work, we're starting a new program at the high school, or reinvigorating a program at the high school called our Teacher Cadet Program, that identifies students that are interested in education and trying to get them in that pipeline such that hopefully they go on to NOC and Northwestern and then come back and teach for us. So we're working hand in hand with those entities to try to get more students in that pipeline. And then legislatively, an issue is teacher pay. And the state of Oklahoma is 48th in the nation in teacher pay, so obviously that's an area that needs to be worked on. And we're excited to have Joy Hoffmeister as the new state superintendent, and I think everybody's excited about that. And she's recently asked me to sit on her state superintendent advisory committee, and so we meet roughly monthly. And so I am glad to be a part of that, and that provides me an opportunity to get some face-to-face time with her. Sure. And provide information to her and get information as well. But I would say those two issues, teacher shortage, teacher pay, and then the fast growth, enrollment growth of our district are three challenges that we're going to have to face moving forward.
I know that you have the credentials as an educator, and I know that you were a superintendent in Texas schools before you came to Enid. But my question is, with your first year behind you, what did you learn about yourself since you moved up here? Yeah. New school, new state, and all that?
It is a learning curve when you come across the Red River. There are unions here that are not there, so that was a little bit of a learning curve. In Texas, the certified folks in education don't contribute to Social Security, but everybody does here, so that was the difference. And but past that, educating kids is educating kids, mm-hmm. and it's still trying to emphasize providing what students need on a daily basis. And one of the additional monikers or mottos that we're going to try to use this year in EPS is developing the potential of every student every day. And so we're going to try to utilize that in addition to some of the other things that we already have in place, but really that's what it's all about. So what I learned, had a little bit of a learning curve on some of those issues, but as I mentioned earlier, I made a concerted effort to get involved in a number of activities, Rotary to Ambucks to United Way, and sat on the hospital board and the Garfield, the county health department board, and some others. So that really was beneficial to me, but it also stretched me pretty thin. So sometimes I have to learn that every once in a while you have to say no, because sure. It's hard to be all things to all people all the time. So
you said all that just to say, Steve, don't call me and ask me to sit on another board for this year. I'm booked for 2015, 2016.
I will entertain your calls.
I appreciate your comments about it. It all comes down to the kids and the students and education. And a few weeks ago, Dr. Floyd, I had the privilege of interviewing Coach Steve Hayes. And we really didn't talk football. We didn't talk about how much we want to run the ball or anything this year. But his emphasis was on mentoring and character building and really the student athlete. And it seems like I think you had probably a little bit to do with bringing the guy from Texas up here as well. And so there seems to be this real deliberate effort of investing in students. And I remember Coach Hayes said something. He goes, Steve, I will know I'll be successful on how this kid today or the student today, how he's contributing to the world 10 years from now. And he was kind of measuring his impact a decade later. And it sounds like that's very similar to you, that you will measure your success on how this the senior today is 10 years from now. Is that true?
That's true. We don't often see immediate feedback on the impact that we make on a student's lives on a daily basis. And sometimes I use the analogy or the example of looking back at my career in public education. It took me until I was about a third of the way into my education career for me to reflect back on some of the people that made the biggest impact in my life as I was coming through public education. And I narrowed it down to 3 educators. My first grade teacher, believe it or not, one of my junior high teachers and coaches, and then my senior honors English teacher, who, by the way, is about to celebrate her 90th birthday, and I got an invitation in the mail recently for that. And I made a concerted effort to contact those people and thank them for what they provided me, because obviously at the time I didn't know they were going to have that kind of impact. Sure. But we do that in education on a daily basis because we don't know the impact and the positivity and reaction that kid is going to have until much later. And I think Steve Hayes, obviously is very strong in his faith and has a belief that it's what we should be instilling in kids is far more than X's and O's in football, and that is character development and teaching them how to be good men both now and later. And I think I'm in hopes that we'll see a great benefit from that both soon and much later as well.
I appreciate what you said about the mentors and your first grade teacher, because I think we all can relate if we think back of people that have impacted our lives. Yeah, it was neighbors, through the years that kept us safe or kept us out of trouble. But many of us also can relate to a coach or that English teacher or social studies teacher, whatever, that took time to really care about us, that made that difference. Excuse me, Dr. Floyd, one more question. What's the best thing about being superintendent of Enid Public Schools?
You mentioned caring, and I'll just finish up on that. There's an old adage in education that they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that's very true, and that falls into our relationship building with the students, and it's as important as teaching them grammar or whatever else. What I learned. What was the question? What I learned?
What's the best thing about being superintendent of Enid Public Schools?
I think the best thing about me being able to serve in this role is being able to have an impact daily on over 8,000 students' lives in some form or fashion. Now, obviously, I'm not in the classroom teaching those kids in front of them every day, but still I can have an impact in some form or fashion. So having an impact on well over 8,000 students and then also over 1,000 employees in EPS affords me an opportunity to have an impact on a greater number of folks than some people otherwise get a chance to do. So I think that's it's a heavy burden at times, but it's also a great opportunity because for all the reasons we already talked about. And so I'm just thrilled to be starting my second year here, and thrilled to be able to continue to have somewhat of an impact on students and employees as well. And it's great to have an extremely supportive school board that helps in that endeavor, and all of those folks in essence, on a daily basis, have the kids' best interests at heart at all times, and that's what it's all about.
Well, I certainly appreciate you joining us on City Connections today, because I think it opens the window a little more insight into what Dr. Floyd's all about, but also about the challenges that we may be removed from school a little bit if our children are not in school, but this gives us an opportunity to kind of share what the educators today face. So thank you for coming to the studios today.
Thanks, Steve.
And thank you for being on City Connections. And thank you for being with us on City Connections. I'm Steve Kime with the City of Enid, and I look forward to bringing another insightful guest here on City Connections. Until next time, make it a great day.